unchanged at 40%. Ofcom says the change is driven by increased mobile and tablet use, particularly among young people. So, does all this mean the end for printed newspapers? With me now is Jim Waterson, who's political editor of BuzzFeed UK. Jim, what do you think? I mean, do you think the idea of having mucky newsprint in your hands is finished?
It's not finished, no. I mean, we're still getting 8 million people a day buying a national newspaper, many more buying regionals, and, free ones like Metro still get a lot of pickup. But it is in a long-term decline. And the key is this mobile usage. So what's happening is people are going home in the evening and they're sitting here, they're watching the news channel, but they're also checking on their phone, stories that their friends on Facebook are sharing, and it's the fact that they're on the they're on the station and they just got 30 seconds to check the news and they just want it in their hand now.
When you say all that, it makes you think that the Waterson inquiry, whatever its merits and so on, was solving or trying to solve yesterday's problems. It's got absolutely nothing to do with, presumably, the world that you live in.
Well, no,
BuzzFeed.
So everything that we heard during the trial was about stuff that went on in the mid-2000s, and that it all felt like ancient history. That was when the UK paper press was at its peak. And all these issues, I mean, they're not really going to go on now. The papers don't have the staff they once did, they don't have the pressure they once did, there's not the same demands on them. And there's certainly, you won't find anyone going to hack a phone nowadays in a British newsroom.
But would you accept that when people are asked about what they trust, they actually, thankfully, they trust the BBC News quite highly, which is good, we're very pleased with that, but they don't trust a lot of the stuff they read on the internet. So they're looking for quality and stuff that they trust, or it's stuff they just, as you suggest, flick through and they're not bothered with.
Yeah, well, that's the reason that the BBC News website and other sites like it are so trusted. Newspaper websites are doing brilliantly. Look at The Guardian, Telegraph,
Mail's doing extremely well.
Absolutely fantastically. So what we're talking about is that people aren't picking up the paper edition, but they are reading the same journalism. They're just, wanting it on their phone, and crucially also, they're not often willing to pay for it.
But if somebody has a complaint, because this all started with complaints, what do you do if you feel you've been hacked or you've been traduced in the media, the old media? What happens in BuzzFeed if somebody's got a gripe against you? How do people handle complaints?
Well, we have internal procedures and we can deal with those complaints, but also we're not doing the same sort of things that the old tabloids are doing. We are not going for those stories that involve, prying to people's lives and things like that. I mean, the interesting thing, I think, is that a lot of the stories that came out of this hacking were very boring. They were inane details of minor celebrities' lives. And actually, you get more from a celebrity's Twitter account than these guys were getting from the voicemails of Z-list Big Brother contestants. That is an interesting point. Some of those things were banal and pointless. So, I mean, where are we going with all this? Because there are some people, certainly in the United States, who think that we're going to what we had in the 18th century, which was pamphleteers, completely unregulated, kind of Wild West, and that we may be going that way now because of the new media. Do you see that? It's very easy to become something very big very quickly. BuzzFeed was founded in 2006, and we now have 140 million readers a month worldwide. You can go from nothing to that very quickly. But building up trust, that takes a lot longer. We know that people still want to, we're still building up trust. BBC has got 90 years behind it. That's why people still go to your website. There's something to be said for it. People will believe stuff that's on a newspaper website more than they'll believe some random blog.
And do you think bad practices, because you've already suggested, the peak of the printed word is gone. We had Fraser Nelson from The Spectator who was saying, newspapers just are not as powerful as they once were. But presumably, in a very competitive business, there will still be people who bend the rules, bad practices, and break the law.
Well,
I'm talking about
yes, I mean, presumably, but I think the sort of everything that went on in the hacking trial was criminal law. It's nothing to do with needing a better press regulator. They were breaking the law as it stands. The police could prosecute them, and now they have. The complaints procedures are one thing, but trying to regulate what we call the press, i.e. the things that are still printed on paper, you're fighting a losing battle there.
Jim, very good to talk to you. Jim Waterson.